Hi, my name is Garnet and I like to do crochet. So in this particular video I have created this hat with ear warmers and a tie, and it also has a little spiral look to it. It also has a pom-pom on the top, or if you choose you can make it so it could be open, and I'll include that in the video on how you can make it so that if you have long hair like I do, you can make it where your ponytail will hang out on the back side. I created this hat because of the cold winter that will be coming up. I live in the United States, so between January and March is perfect skiing weather, and I know that you'll be able to wear this, and you can take it and tie it and know that it won't fall off. Come join me as we end up making this hat step by step and pretty quickly so that you can enjoy it for this winter. Since Christmas is right around the corner, it will go quick enough so that you can also make them as Christmas gifts. Let's begin. The materials and tools that we will be using to make this hat is Red Heart Super Saver. This is a variegated yarn in the color Icelandic. We're also using Vanna's Choice, and her color is called Linen. Both of these are a size 4 in the weight of the worsted weight. I have a pair of scissors made by Fiskars, a tapestry needle, and a size K 6.50 millimeter crochet hook. To give an overall understanding of what we're doing with this hat, we're going to be crocheting along a diagonal. So you'll notice that as we go along, your hat will not be going this way, it'll be going at a diagonal, as you see here with this line and how it ends over here on the right side at a diagonal as well. Here we have the 2 ear flaps, we have the back, and we have our front. So if you see your shape not looking like you think it should look, refer back to this or just follow me and we'll be just fine in making of this hat. Let's continue on. So before we begin, you may want to consider making a ball using the 2 strands together. This is what will give us this beautiful pattern, as you see here. I love it. It'll fit a lot of different blue and gray color ski outfits or coats that you may have in your apparel wardrobe. So if we start out and wrap it together, that would be fine, or you can pull them both out at the same time as we work our yarn. Let's start our chaining process. Get your hook and your yarn ready. So let's begin. We're going to place a slip knot on our hook and chain 39. 1, 2, 3, 4. Continue till you get to 39. After completing the 39 chains, we're going to skip the first 2 chains, and in the 3rd chain we're going to place a half double crochet. To do a half double crochet, yarn over, place your finger on the loop you just made, insert the hook, draw back a loop. You now have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through all 3. You've completed your first half double crochet. Continue with half double crochets all the way till you have 2 chains left. You should have a total of 35 half double crochets on this chain foundation. In our last 2 stitches, we're going to place a decrease stitch, which is called a half double crochet cluster. To make that, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, draw up a loop, yarn over again, insert into the next loop, and draw up a loop. We will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Yarn over. Now aim your hook down and pull your work down from your hook and pull through all loops on your hook. After that, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. We are now ready for row 2. I will be using a counter to help with the determination of which row we will be on. To begin this row, we're going to start with our half double crochet cluster. All rows from here on out will be done in the back loops of our chain that you see on the top. Here's our front loop, here's our back. So, to remind you again of how to do our cluster, yarn over, and in that back loop, draw up a loop, yarn over, and in the next loop, draw up a loop as well. Yarn over and through all 5 on the hook. The next stitch, and for the next 32 stitches, will be our half double crochet, yarn over, in the back loop, draw up a loop, yarn over through all 3. Continue down till you get down to here. You have 2 left, and I will meet you there. You'll have 32 across the front. In our last 2 stitches, we're going to repeat and do another half double crochet cluster. You'll notice that both of our work on both ends are aiming in this direction. After you do your half double crochet cluster, chain 2, turn your work. To save time on my videos so I don't make them so long, I wrote this out. Row 3 is exactly the same as row 2, all the way down to row 8. You'll notice that we do decreases in each of the rows, so when you do your half double crochet cluster at the beginning of your row, for row 3 you're going to do 30 half double crochets, the half double cluster at the end of the row, chain 2 and turn your work. Row 4 shows 28, row 5 shows 26, row 6 shows 24, row 7 shows 22, row 8 shows 20. When you get to row 8, chain 2 and turn and stop, and I will meet you there. Please pause your video if this will help you. I will hold it here for a few seconds. So after 8 rows, you can see how this is forming. Both ends should be curving in. So the end with your tail is going to be the top of your hat, while the point end down at the other is going to be your ear flap. Alright, let's move on to row number 9. So I wrote these out. For row 9, which is our next row, we're going to do 2 half double crochets in the first stitch. Then we will do 19 half double crochets across and a half double crochet cluster in the last 2 stitches. So to do our 2 half double crochets in our first stitch. Here's 1 in our first stitch. Here's 2. Then half double crochet remaining in the back loops like the whole pattern is to be. So do 19 across, and when you get to the last 2 stitches here, we'll do our cluster there. This will be for row 9 and 11. Let me bring it up closer so you can pause your video on it. So at the end of row 9, we've chained 2, we're turning our work. Let's move on to row 10. And row 10 will start with our half double cluster, yarn over through the first, yarn over through the second. Alright, and do 19 half double crochets across, and in the last stitch you'll place 2 half double crochets there and chain 2 and turn. This will be for row 10 and row 12. Okay, so when you do row 11, you'll do the same thing that you did for row 9, and for row 12 you'll do the same thing you did for row 10. Please pause your video and continue on. So at the end of row 12, you can see how our piece, even though it has a really odd shape, is lining up to my form here. You also notice that at one end you'll have a totally straight line, while at the other end it curves up. Now we're going to start to curve down. I'm sure that you have already chained 2 and you're ready to turn your work, but I'm going to encourage you to chain 15 more chains for a total of 17 chains. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you after 17 chains. At the end of 17 chains, go ahead and turn your work and make sure that your chain is straight. If it isn't, like mine, go ahead and change it so that you have a straight line right here. Let's begin row 13. And in row 13, we are going to do the same thing we did in row 2 or row 1. We're going to half double crochet in the 3rd chain from our hook. So we're going to skip the first 2 and half double crochet in that first chain of the stitch there, the top chain. Half double crochet in the next stitch and continue half double crochet until you have 35 half double crochets, and leave the last 2 open where we will do a cluster. So with this extra that we brought here, this will start the 2nd ear flap. So for row 14, we're going to be doing the same as what we did for row 2. So here's our chart. I'll bring it up closer. For row 14, we're going to do the half double cluster first, the half double crochet cluster, 32 half double crochets, the half double crochet cluster, chain 2 and turn. The same thing that you did on rows 2 through 9. Go ahead and pause your video, and I'll meet you after row 20. As you can see here, that after 20 rows, this is what we have so far, meeting up to the shape. You'll notice one edge is totally straight and the other edge has a curve to it where the curve is starting to go back up. We are ready to move on to row 21. Row 21 through rows 26 will be the front of the hat. And as before, row 9 and 11 are going to be the same as rows 21, 23, and 25. Row 22, 24, and 26 will be the same as rows 10 and 12. This is where this area across your face you may require to have more than 6 rows. You may need 8 rows or 7 rows. I will get you started, and then we will go ahead and check our hat before we sew our seam. So let's start row 21. Remember to chain 2 and then turn your work. And I'm going to place my hook back in there. So the first thing we're going to do is 2 half double crochets in that first stitch. We're going to do 19 half double crochets across, and in the last 2 stitches we'll do the half double crochet cluster. You'll chain 2 and turn your work. For row 22, because we're along the straight edge here, we're going to start off with our half double crochet cluster. Continue across with the 19 half double crochets, and at the end, the last stitch, we're going to add 2 half double crochets, chain 2 and turn. Repeat rows 23 through 26 as shown here. Please pause your video. So here I have completed 7 rows because I needed the additional length. Since this is going to be in the front, that would be a plus for me. So I'm going to show you how to fit this on you to see if you need additional in the front. So here I've placed it on. I didn't stretch it. I want it to fit correctly. So here both of my ears are covered, and you'll see that the seam is right here. Well, going in this direction. I've already done 2 bloopers. So this is how we want it to fit. We want it to make it so that as it wraps around, it touches. And this is going to be our seam, and that's the next thing that we're going to do, is we're going to sew our seam. So after you've determined that this piece right here will fit around to this side over here, then we're going to go ahead and sew our seam. So basically, once I get everything out of the way, this is what we're going to have. This is where this line will line up here, and we'll be going on a diagonal like this. So I ended my row up here at the top along the straight edge. I'm going to leave enough yarn so that I can go both ends with no problem in sewing. So I'm going to leave an 18-inch tail for sewing. Let's thread our needle and get started. So to thread our needle, take your yarn and place it between your fingers. Bring your needle up from behind and tighten it over the needle. With the folded edges of the yarn, work them in to the eye and pull them through. Now we're ready to sew. So let's take our straight edge and go all the way across and fold over the other straight edge. So we have our 2 ends meeting right here. And we're going to do a whip stitch in each stitch that's across from each other all the way down till we get to the bottom of the short row, which will be right here. That should be covering about 20 stitches. So to do this, we're going to line up with the straight edge of the chain stitch and the back loop of the other stitch. And we're just going to do what they call a basic whip stitch. So I'm going to go down to the next stitch on both sides. And since I'm using the 2 strands, you want to make sure that you pull both of them through. Continue this all the way down till you get to the end of this one. So after you make your seam, you'll notice that the front side is obviously bigger than the back. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is our top piece up here. Now, if you choose to leave an opening for your, make it a ponytail, you want to leave like, I guess it's about 2 inches. Let's see. Yeah, you want to leave about a 2-inch circle opening. If you want to seam it close, which I am going to do, I'm going to sew this one closed and put a pom-pom on it. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So thread yourself a needle with about 18 inches of the yarn. You want to double it. And back here where our knot is, I'm going to take advantage of that and I'm going to tie my end on. Make sure you got a nice tight square knot so it won't come undone when you pull it. And you can take your leftovers and either bring it in or out. I'm going to bring them in. And then you're going to just do a running stitch along the open edges of the end of your hat here. You'll see how you have those 2 open strands. Just go ahead and do a running stitch around there, go all the way around, and I'll meet you there. So here you can see I've gone all the way around. So for those that want to make this a ear flap hat with a hole opening, you can pull it till you have the desired hole size that you want. Okay, and then you would secure it right here, and then you would open up the gather so it would be even all the way around. If you choose to close it, as I'm going to do here, you just keep on pulling until your ends from the sides meet. And pull in my tail here. And then you're going to, this is also for if you do the ponytail one, you wrap it a couple of times and then you, on the inside, bring your needle inside and then you can tie it off. Now after I go ahead and tie this off, do not cut your yarn. We're going to use that to tie on our pom-pom with. So go ahead and take your needle and push it back to the front. Oops. And let's start making our pom-pom. To make our pom-pom, we're going to need a length of string. Okay, and then I'm going to place it across my fingers like this. I'm going to be using my hands to make my pom-pom. Now if you have a pom-pom maker or something like that, I encourage you to use it. And I'm going to wrap and wrap and wrap until I have a large amount of yarn here on my hands. I wrapped the desired amount of yarn that I wanted for my pom-pom. So now I'm going to take the ends from that piece of string that I put through there, and I'm going to try and tie this into a tight square knot. Alright, Now that we have our tight knot, let's go back to our center and cut it where you have it in half. Alright, you notice mine didn't come out exactly in half, so I'm going to cut it here. It helps if you have a bigger pair of scissors, but I like using my small scissors as well. So I'm going to cut the curves, clean up my mess, and I got me a floppy pom-pom. So with my tied ends, I'm going to go ahead and just take them and drop them, and I'm going to cut them to the length of the other two. With my needle, I'm going to go through the center of where I tied it, and then I'm going to go back to my hat and pick up across to the other side, and I'm going to go around it one more time. I'm going to bring it back into the center, where I will tie it off to my strings that I have inside already. And cut all excess threads. I'm going to leave little tails on them so that they will stay. And so here I got my little pom-pom on top. Let's go ahead and do our sides and our ties. To begin, we're going to place a slip knot, and we're going to chain 15. I ended up doing 25. If you choose, you can make yours longer. Now we're going to start here at the points. So on one side, make a single crochet, and then as we go around, try not to pick up the one stitch. That'll cause it to stretch and not look uniform. Go ahead and do one single crochet per row if possible. Go all the way around to the other point, and when you do that, do a chain stitch of the same amount that you did on the beginning side. For the other side of the hood, we're going to do the same thing, chain 25 and do this side, and then I'll show you how to add one more chain. So after you've gone around both sides, you should have two tails with a little opening right here in the center. So what we're going to do now, I'd like for you to have at least 10 inches and place a slip knot. And then take your hat, and in the center between those two, make a standing single crochet. So to do that, we're just going to insert the hook, draw up a loop, and complete a single crochet. Now chain 25, or whatever number you have chosen for your chain lengths, and I'll meet you after you've done your 25. Have a 10-inch tail and tie it off. With the tail that you have at the hat level, go ahead and thread your needle and weave it in and out, and then cut it. Bring together the three ends, and we're going to place a braid down the length of this. You want it to be loose so that it's not tight and shrinks up. At the end, bring all three of them together and place an overhand knot and bring the knot up as close to the ends of the chain stitches as possible. Oh, my computer's talking to me now. Okay, and here we have both ends braided. At this time, if you feel that there's enough threads here, you can cut them to a length, or you can create little tassels to hang. I'm going to leave mine as is. So now that we've completed our little hat that has a spiral look with our ear flaps and our braided straps, I hope that you have an outfit that you might wear it with. Maybe something in gray or blue or a light seafoam blue. Whichever color you choose, I hope you enjoy it. It will keep you very warm during these super cold winter months that are coming up upon us. Thank you for joining me in this video. I hope to see you again in another video. Bye-bye. Remember, my name is Garnet, and my YouTube channel is Garnet is a Jewel. Please subscribe. I would love to hear from you in the comments section. So, bye-bye, and stay warm this winter. So yes, here I am. Here is our hat. So, the center piece will go into the back. And then the other piece will wrap around to the front. Let's line it up. I feel so silly here. Okay. So, lining it up here. Right here. Okay. So, the top piece lines up with the top edge so that it's straight. And the bottom comes around like so. Make sure it covers both of your ears, and as you can see, mine is lined up right here where I need it to be. So here's our piece. Okay, so the center piece goes in the back, and if you notice up here we have our straight edge. So this will come around, and the bottom, this is crazy. Yeah, blooper number 2.